Hello, I'm Sandy Allnock, artist here on YouTube. Welcome to my channel, and today is part one of a two-part series on painting this boat. Today we're going to do the thumbnail sketches, both in graphite and watercolor, and talk through some things about how to make a plan for the painting to come. And I'll be using one brush for the painting because I wanted to try this one out since I just got it recently. And this is the painting that will be in the next video. And both of them have these lovely harbor sounds underneath of them. So I hope you enjoy the ambiance and the seagulls. So I recently found a sketchbook. This one is one that's been around here forever. I've been using it for years, not very consistently. I haven't finished it though. And it's been a really good sketchbook for my thumbnails, whether they're watercolor thumbnails or graphite or whatever. And I've gotten out of the practice of doing thumbnails. And I've said that on numerous occasions in numerous videos when I did do thumbnails. And I keep saying, this is going to be the start of doing thumbnails. Well, this sketchbook only has like 4 or 5 pages left in it. So I can do thumbnail sketches 4 or 5 times to finish the book. That, by the way, is from a composition class that I taught in person one time years ago. And I might teach that class again, do it online on my website, and do a composition class for watercolorists during World Watercolor Month in July. So that's kind of in my plan in my head. Anyway, you can see all the thumbnails that are here. And today I'm going to do thumbnails for this boat. The tools I'm going to be using are a Grafwood pencil by Caran 9B. Makes a nice dark value, but you can also use it lightly to get light values. And this brush is new to me, new-ish, Da Vinci Silver Point. It's not called a silver point because of the head of the brush. It's because of the back end, which can draw silver point the way they used to back in the old master's days. Stay tuned to my channel in another week or so. I'll have a silver point video because I'm going to try to see if I can get that to work. And this brush, though, is kind of nice. It's a very short-handled brush and a little chunky on the handle side. But, you know, I will let you know at the end of painting this full painting whether or not I am copacetic with this brush. And then I'll also let you know if the silver point is worth it, because if not, you could probably find a brush like that for less money, because I bought it for myself for a Christmas gift this past year, and I'm only now getting around to using it. It was like $100 and something, and it was in my cart forever, and then it came down to like $78, so I decided to treat myself to it. Anyway, thumbnail sketch in pencil. What I like to do is try to break things down into as simple as shapes as I can. And doing thumbnails, I'm drawing it really small. And if I find myself getting noodly, and I started getting noodly with that engine on the back of the boat, I took the engine out. I decided this is going to be a rowboat, or I'm going to think of it as a rowboat. And or maybe it's got its engine like inside in a compartment somewhere or something, because I just didn't want to put it in there. It's just too fussy. And I was just playing around with the shapes, looking at the shape of the dock that it's tied to, and the things that I was attracted to in it, I had to keep in mind so that I make sure that I don't do anything that's going to lose the attention on them. And I liked the bright orange buoy. I liked that really nice swoosh of blue through the middle of the boat and the light hitting the top of the boat. And then all that dark behind it. So that was kind of where my head was. And, you know, it seemed like a good decision to get rid of that engine. So first edit, success. I'm going to call it success. But I had an idea while I was doing that I wanted to try right next to it without getting rid of this one. And that is to get rid of the walkway behind the boat. I just wanted to see what that could look like so that maybe I could take away one element that's going to distract. Because with any kind of art, the place where your focal point is where your whitest whites hit your darkest darks, wherever they meet. That's really where the eye goes, where the contrast is. And if I could get rid of that walkway, because the walkway is not doing any good while it's sitting there, I could just make a taller wall behind the boat. And that will help to put the focus on the boat. And I can just do kind of some mushy color in there and see how that works out. So I'm going to just create some horizontals and some various shapes in that dark area, and then have the water come down on the left, and then put my shadows in. And that kind of worked. That had me intrigued because I was thinking, I think I can do that and simplify it much more. Because I'm telling you, when I start getting complex with my sketches, then the painting is going to get more complex, because when you make it bigger, you've got much more room to work. So you tend to, I shouldn't say you, I tend to just get into all the noodly detail. And I have to really pull myself back from doing that. So I am speeding this up here so that you can see more of the painting rather than focusing on all that drawing part. So I'm going to put some color in here. This is Anthraquinoid Scarlet. And this brush is very, very, very wet. This thing holds more water and paint than any brush I've ever had. It's just crazy, crazy, crazy. Now that's not a bad crazy, but I barely dipped that brush into the water with that blue on it so I could put the value into the water on the left. And it worked really great. I didn't have to do anything to create that light color. It just went on its own because this thing holds so much in it. And it'll be interesting to see how it acts on good watercolor paper, because this is mixed media paper. It's not good stuff. And having it on here is not going to tell me what the techniques are that I'm going to use, but I'm trying to imagine those techniques, and I'm trying to imagine how is going to be the best way to break up these shapes and paint them so that it's going to be the easiest to paint. And while I'm doing this quick sketch of it, my mind is going through, okay, am I going to start with the buoys? Am I going to start with the wall in the back? Do I begin with the boat? Like, where do I start? And what order might I try painting different sections in? And when you've got an element like this boat that's going to divide the darks from the lights, that wall behind, it can be painted as one chunk, because it's just like off there by itself, and there's not much that it touches until it gets to that crisp edge of the boat and the crisp edge of the buoy. So I'm thinking about how to handle that so that when I get to the painting, I have at least somewhat of a plan. But for that wall behind there, I'm just going to put a bunch of colors in and add deeper values while it's wet, do some wet and wet, and then do some dry on, or wet on dry once it's finished drying. And I think that's going to help to give me the texture that I want back there for interest, but keep it very mushy and dark so that the boat really pops. And I was playing here also with values because I had to make sure that the boat is going to be dark enough on the forward side, the side that's facing us. So I guess it's the back of the boat. But it has to be of a dark enough value, and the color of the water has to be of a dark enough value to really push the rest of the boat into the light. And that's really one of my goals, because all that light water on the left-hand side is also going to be fighting for some attention. So I'm going to have to figure out how to kind of calm that down so I can put the focus where I want it to be. So another test that I do sometimes is to see if I can work without a sketch. I had started just putting in the outline of a box, and I started putting in the top of the boat, and then I said, nope, I'm going to see if I can do this with this big old fat brush and just paint in the basic shapes and do it a little bit larger. Then I'll have much more confidence when I get to the big painting that I have few enough shapes. Because as soon as you start having all the little fussy bits, everything just gets worse and more confusing. So I knew I wanted to have some of this bright blue. It's kind of a dull version of the bright blue inside the boat, that color that I liked, which is a iridescent electric blue in my palette. And then I'm mixing these darks with transparent red oxide mixed with a little Paynes blue sometimes, but mostly ultramarine. So that will make a nice black if I get it to the right mix, but I can also make it mushy and blue and black and brown and make it kind of go back and forth between all those colors, and it'll be great. I'm going to use kind of the same colors inside the boat. I don't want to make it too much the same so that it doesn't look like there's a hole in the boat looking through to the wall. But then I'm going to use a watered down version of these same colors, maybe with a little more of the... I was trying to figure out whether I want to do a little more of the ultramarine in it or a little more of the iridescent electric blue. But, these are all decisions that I can make when I get to the finished painting. But if I've tried them out here, then I at least have some clue what I'm going to do. And again, I'm going to paint the backside of the boat and the shadow or the reflection underneath of it all in one swoop, and then put the darks on top. And that's another part. I'm just thinking through how I'm going to handle all the different parts so that I connect the right pieces together, because in a painting it really helps if all of your shapes join in some fashion. And there are some places on the left side of the boat where it's going to join and connect to the background, but not so much that I can't paint those things separately. So I can find ways to join those two. Then there's the this crazy thing, the buoy that I just can't seem to deal with because it's so red. And there's a black horizontal in the middle of it. So, looking at the shape of that buoy, as I paint this, sketched it twice, painted it twice, I start seeing more things and noting more things. That buoy is not round. It gets skinnier as it gets into the part that connects to the boat. And it also has a flat bottom on it where there's going to be a shadow. So there's things like that I just start to notice as I work through sketching it a couple of times, and I start seeing more parts that I can decide whether I want to include or not. Like that left side, there's just a panel down there at the bottom, and it's a little more bluish than I painted it, so I threw some more blue in there. But that's going to help me as I start getting into the painting to notice those things, because I'm noticing them now. I don't want to notice them all of a sudden, be surprised, oh my goodness, there's an element in here that I hadn't zoomed in on the photo to see. If I can figure them out now and decide how I want to tackle them and, what I want to do with them, do I want to keep them or not, then I don't have to think about that decision later, because I'm thinking about it right now and I can just get her done. So now I thought I'd tackle a little bit of that water. And again, this is fine detail, so it was a bit of a test of this ginormous brush to see if it could do it. And I was pretty tickled, because even at this small size, it's doing a pretty decent job of that water and some of the finer details that I'm putting in here. I'm like, maybe I can paint this whole thing with one brush. For those of you who are continuity geeks, and what that is somebody who watches like all the Star Trek shows and finds all of the inconsistent things that happen because, somebody wasn't paying attention to what outfit someone was wearing or where a chair was in one scene versus the next. Anyway, I do realize that, yes, I'm talking as though I don't know what's going to happen in the painting. I'm trying in my head to go back in my brain to where I was when I was doing the sketch and what I was thinking about trying when I got around to doing the finished painting. So here's where I noticed all of a sudden there's a plate of some kind, like a blue plate. I don't know if that's part of the engine that I cut out, but I decided to include it on my finished painting. So next step was to get ready for the painting. And if you would like to paint along with me, you could do some thumbnails first, do some practice, and then get the photograph, which is linked in the doobly-doo down below. It's on my blog, but you can go get it from Unsplash. But you can get your sketch done so that you're ready when the next video comes out. And if you're watching this later and both videos are out, you can just zip right over to that one. I will put a link underneath of this video in the description section so that you'll be able to join me and maybe paint this yourself. So I started off, as I always do, with just blocking in the shapes in like a super light pencil line. I use a lighter pencil than my 9B for that. And then I go in with the 9B to start firming up some of the lines. Since I knew that a lot of these lines are going to be the divider between very, very dark and white, I wasn't really worried about any of the graphite being trapped under here. Some people get very stressed out about that. I was not worried about it at all because, it's going to disappear when I end up getting to the painting. Now let's talk a little bit about the things to include when you do a sketch. There are some people who ritually will draw in the outlines of every one of those little curly waves, those reflections in the water, and every bit of detail in the whole lip of the boat, around that whole edge. They'll draw absolutely everything. And I don't believe in doing that, because what it's going to do when you get to painting in watercolor is you're going to get lost in trying to get a tiny brush so you can get in all those tiny details. I'm just putting areas for remembrance for me. I'm, sketching in this section on the right-hand side. I don't even know what all that stuff is over there. I'm just going to make some nondescript lines when I get there. And I'm going to draw in some of the ropes and things that are hanging down, but I'm not stressing out over them at all. I'm not going to try to make them look exactly what is in the photograph, because they don't matter. The thing that matters to me is the light hitting the boat. And I want to get that right and pay attention to it. And I don't want to get lost in everything else. But as I was looking at everything here closer in the photograph, because I was trying to, work on a bigger drawing, there were some things I noticed. There's two small white areas in that black at the bottom of the boat. And I guess those are little parts of the boat. I was thinking that was not necessarily the bottom of the boat, but that was the reflection. But it's part of the boat because there's a reflection of those light areas. I sketched them in case I remember they're there, but they're not important. So if I miss them, if I paint right through them, no harm, no foul. But I'm putting in anything that I'm worried I might forget. If there's just some little section that might need a little extra TLC. Now, the way I sized mine, I did leave more space at the bottom of my painting. I didn't want to, squish this thing all the way down to the bottom. So I left more room on the left-hand side in my composition so I could bring that water, all those swirlies of water, bring that further in on the painting rather than have it fall off of the crop lines. So my sketch is all finished, and notice it's very rough, very simple. I'm not trying to make perfect lines anywhere. I just want to delineate those things that are the most important, get the biggest, most important shapes in there, and any details that I'm worried I might forget. And that's all. So go get your sketch done if you want to paint along with me next time, and then we will get into the larger watercolor. Remember, the photograph is linked down below to Unsplash if you would like to go get that. And you want to make your sketches. I'm going to just ask you for your homework. And you have to show your homework before you can do the painting. No, you don't have to do that. But I recommend it because you can try out your colors that way. And whatever brushes you want to use, I'm going to try using this one. But you will be able to use whatever brushes you would like and whatever colors you would like. I'll put the swatches of the colors that I'm using for the finished painting on my blog. If you want to see those, there will also be a list in the doobly-doo here. But if you need to see the colors so you can compare them to what's in your palette, you can do that. And I will see you in a couple days in the next video, or link will be in the doobly-doo after that video goes live. I will see you then. Take care. Bye-bye.